Hello and welcome to the show. So today we've got a little bit of a Halloween special, if you like, where I spent some time looking through Forza 5 and tried to come up with a list of the top 10 scariest cars to drive. Now I'm talking about standard cars here. Now, these are all completely stock, untuned, unmodified. I'm not talking about the monstrosities that I come up with in the silly car builds. This is cars that are completely standard. Now, the first thing that I had to do really is clarify about what I mean by a scary car to drive. This Formula 1 car that I'm taking around Yas Marina, I don't really count this as a scary car particularly. Yes, it is phenomenally quick, it is stupidly fast around a track, but I don't find it a particularly scary car to drive. Even with all the assists turned off, it isn't really that scary. Yes, it can go a little bit sideways if you're not careful, and coming out of some of the slower corners, maybe it'll spin the wheels up a little bit, but it's very, very predictable in many ways. The same way with a V8 supercar. A V8 supercar is quite a tough car to drive, but it's not scary. You know what a V8 supercar is going to be doing, you know what a Formula 1 car is going to be doing. So, yeah, I wouldn't personally count this as... It can be a little bit daunting the first time you try and drive it, but I wouldn't really say a Formula 1 car is particularly scary. On to our top 10. In 10th place, we have got the Formula E. I've mentioned on a couple of occasions I do not really like this car, and the simple reason is it's completely unpredictable. Yes, it is a racing vehicle. Yes, it has quite good grip to an extent. It has quite nice brakes. The problem is, you're never quite sure what the back end of this car is going to be doing. Absolutely no idea. I'm trying to drive it around Long Beach here. I'm trying to give it the best possible opportunity it has. At high-speed tracks, this car is terrifying because you will turn into a corner and there will be great grip, there will be good stopping power, and then the back end will decide it doesn't want to have any grip at all and it will be sideways everywhere. For some reason, the back end of this car is not at all planted on the road, which is very, very strange. You drive this car and you're expecting it to be a lovely vehicle to drive. It's a racing car after all. And as I said, I'm giving it the best opportunity. This thing was designed to be raced on street circuits. So I'm giving it the best chance it has at this fairly slowish, I say slowish, street circuit. High-speed corners, this thing is terrifying. You will turn into a corner and it will probably let go. It'll be very sideways if it doesn't let go. It's just not a very nice car to drive, this. It's not as fast as some of the cars that we have here, hence why it's down the bottom of the order. It's still pretty damn rapid, but yeah, it's not the fastest car we have here. Still an absolute pain in the arse to drive. From not the fastest to, well, the fastest road car in the world, the Hennessey Venom. Now, I had a bit of a toss-up between using, or for putting the Venom in 9th, or putting the Veyron in 9th. Both of them are kind of similar. In some respects, because both these cars, both the Venom and the Veyron, phenomenally quick cars in a straight line. Fastest cars in the world when it comes to driving in a straight line. They both have their problems. First of all, the braking in the Veyron, well, what braking is more of the thing. Getting these cars stopped is quite difficult. The Venom is also very difficult to get stopped, because you go so fast in these cars when it comes to a straight line. You're going 50, 60, maybe 80 miles an hour quicker than anything else when it comes to almost anything else when it comes to the braking zones in these cars. So you've got to adjust to that. You've got to take that in mind when you're driving these cars. Now, in a Venom, it's a little bit better because the car only weighs about 2,500, 2,700 pounds. It's not that much heavier than a normal supercar. So yes, you've got to adjust for that. But of course in a Veyron, it's like 4,000, it's stupidly heavy, so it really doesn't get stopped very well at all. I chose the Venom in the end for this, because the Veyron is kind of, if you do get the Veyron stopped, it's kind of safe everywhere else. It's big four-wheel drive. I didn't get the Venom stopped here. The Venom isn't nice and safe from four-wheel drive. It has 1,200 horsepower going through the rear wheels, which, as you can imagine, makes it kind of interesting to try and put the power down. In 8th place, I have got the Ariel Atom V8. Now, this is another car that I don't really like. Similar reasons to the Formula E, but not quite. This is a lot more twitchy. The Formula E likes to go sideways. It likes to go sideways a lot of the time. In the Ariel Atom, it's kind of the same thing, only this is a lot more twitchy. It will snap, quite often you'll spin this car out if you aren't very careful, and this is faster than the Formula E, hence why I put it a bit higher up on the in the top 10, if you like. I can never quite get used to driving this car. If you keep it together, it is incredibly quick, the Ariel Atom. We all know how fast the Atem V8s are. If you can keep it together, it is stupidly fast. But when it comes to high-speed corners, much like with the Formula E, you just never quite know what the back end is going to do. You never quite trust it. And the front end, again, has absolutely excellent turning. So you think, oh yes, I can carry loads of speed through here, because the front end has a lot of grip. And then the back end will decide that it doesn't want to do that, and you'll be pointing backwards. I still can't get used to this car after however long I've been driving on Forza 5. Still can't quite get the Atom right. You will spend a lot of time sideways with this car. I've taken some cones out with me. It's just too twitchy. Far too twitchy for my liking. If you can get it together, if you can get that one clean lap out of it though, it is phenomenally quick, as we have lots of side sliding. In the Atom. Up next, it is the Lotus Type 49. Now, we raced the Lotus against the Brabham a little while ago. I drove the Brabham, and it wasn't that bad. Daniel drove the Lotus, and these two were pretty close. I have to say, Daniel did a very good job of keeping up with the Brabham, as I drove both of these cars, trying to sort of get a feel for them, and I don't like the Lotus at all. I am really not a fan of this Lotus. These are classic Formula 1 cars, yes, and their brakes are not quite as sharp as you would like or you would expect. In both of the cars, both the Lotus and the Brabham, you'll be driving along and you'll jump on the brakes thinking, oh, I'm in a race car, and they won't quite get stopped as quickly. It's just running a sort of old brake technology, if you like. But of course, they still accelerate and they still have 180 mile an hour top speeds. So you have modern day speed with slightly old brakes and quite old handling, which makes them interesting to drive. The Lotus just does not have the grip of the Brabham. It really doesn't. The Brabham, it is a little bit difficult to drive, yes. Don't get me wrong, Brabham's not an easy car, but the Lotus has far less grip. I think the Lotus is perhaps a little bit quicker eventually, but it's so difficult to control through the corners. It will be sliding around, and it's a little bit it's not the most unpredictable car we have here, but you're never quite sure. You'll be going around a corner and things will be going fine, and then all of a sudden they won't be going quite so fine. In 6th place, I have got the rough CTI Yellowbird. This is here purely on the fact of its suspension. This has the Alpha 33, when highly modified, the Alpha 33 does some very, very strange things. But standard, the Alpha isn't too bad, because it doesn't really have a huge amount of power or a huge amount of speed. The rough is absolutely terrible, because it has lots of power, lots of speed, and it has an engine in the boot, which means the weight distribution is all wonky, and the car moves around a hell of a lot on the suspension. This is one of the hardest cars to drive with just stupid suspension. The suspension is so soft. You'll be going around these corners and the car will almost be on 3 wheels. That's how soft the suspension is. It might not quite be on 3 wheels, but the weight transfer is so extreme, it makes this car very, very hard to drive around circuits with fast corners. Slow corners it's alright, but around a circuit like this one, you can see how much the front of the car is ducking and diving around. You don't want a vehicle doing that, not when you're trying to push it at the speeds the rough can do. I mean, this is as fast as a lot of supercars. You don't want the suspension doing that. It's not a good thing. I mean, the car will do all sorts of strange things. It's not a nice vehicle to drive. If the car starts going sideways with the wonky weight transfer going on, you don't actually spin it out very often, because the suspension is so soft. You often end up scraping the rear bumper along the floor, and it kind of slows it down. Yeah, it's a strange one. You probably won't spin this car out, but it will be very, very difficult to drive with it moving around so much on the suspension. It's difficult, very, very difficult car to drive with the rough. In 5th place, we have certainly the strangest looking car you will see in this list and on the entirety of Forza 5. It is I think it's Chaparral, I'm hoping that's pronounced right, Chaparral 2E, with the world's big... that wing can't be useful. There can't be any use having the wing that high up. I would think that it really messes around with the centre of mass of this car. It's such a strange... I don't quite get it. I mean, even without the wing, this would be a strange looking car. But with that stupid wing, yeah, it moves around as well, depending on what you're doing, which just carries on with the weirdness of this car. And the reason why I have this on the list quite high up is for the first couple of laps you drive this car, you will think that it's quite nice. The first few laps, you won't have any real problems with it. And then the minute you start to really try and push this car, it becomes absolutely unpredictable. When you start really trying to push this car, you're never quite sure when you go to a corner whether you're going to have grip or not. It's a strange one. It can be a little bit understeery, and then you'll have all of a sudden oversteer. It's very, very unpredictable what this car is going to do. It also has the world's stupidest gearbox. It has 3 gears. Gear 1 is very, very long, Gear 3 is very, very long, and Gear 2 covers about 20 miles an hour in the middle. I don't understand it either. It makes absolutely no sense to me. In 4th place, we have got the Auto Union Type D. This is a pretty damn incredible car. It's an incredible piece of engineering. Car made in 1939. It will do 230 miles an hour eventually. It'll take a long time to get there, but it will get to 230 miles an hour. That is an awful lot of speed. Most modern day supercars can't do that sort of speed. Yet this thing will. It's a very, very, very quick car in a straight line. Of course, around the corners, you've still got 1939 tyres and brakes and chassis and suspension. You can imagine this is kind of a recipe for disaster. The Auto Union is not a particularly easy car to drive. It just doesn't have any grip. There really is absolutely no grip in this car. And then when you do go around a corner and you fire it out the other side, you're suddenly accelerating like a modern day Ferrari or Lamborghini. It makes it an interesting one. You have to brake very early. Fortunately, once you sort of get past the 160 mile an hour mark, it then slows down the rate of acceleration. It doesn't get to 230 very quickly. So once you get past sort of 160, it takes a long time to get any faster, which means that after the very long straights, you're not too bad when it comes to the braking zones. But you've got to be careful with this car, especially under braking, because of the incredible speed and very old brakes. And of course, there is just a lack of grip through the corners. In 3rd place, we've got the Ford Coyote. Let's just put this into context. Okay, this car has more horsepower, more torque, and weighs less than both a modern-day Formula 1 car and a modern-day Indy car. That's quite an impressive feat for anything. This is in I think it's a 1977 car. That's an awful lot of speed. That's stupendous amounts of speed you get from this car. And again, on the first couple of laps, things may be okay with this car. Certainly at high-speed corners, most of the time, this car is okay. Much like the Chaparral, this is on the list because it is very unpredictable. You'll be driving some laps and it will be just phenomenally quick around a track, and then the next lap it'll suddenly let go at 190 miles an hour and try and kill you. That's why it's on this list, and that's why it's higher than the Chaparral, because this thing is stupidly fast, but you're never quite sure when it's going to try and kill you through a corner. I mean, it's got a lot of power and a lot of torque, which means simply putting the power down out of the slow corners is difficult, and of course it's not got quite as modern a tyres, or it does pretty well on the grip front most of the time, but it's still not got the most up-to-date sort of suspension, tyres and stuff. It's just the fact that you're never quite sure. Like this corner here, flat out twice, 3rd time round, that's sideways at 180. You're never quite sure when the car is going to let go. In 2nd place, we have got the Maserati 8CTF. Again, another classic race car. And this one isn't as fast as the Auto Union. Again, me and Daniel raced these two against each other around the Nürburgring, and the Auto Union was by far the faster of the two. However, I have put the Maserati higher up the list because it is just not as nice to drive. When you compare the two of them, the Maserati is a lot worse to drive. Even though the Auto Union is the quicker of the two cars, the Maserati still doesn't like getting stopped very well, still doesn't really like turning very much. It's just not a very nice car to drive. It's very, very sideways a lot of the time. It's not so much unpredictable in the Maserati. It's not like the Ford. It's not sort of an unpredictable car. You know that it's just going to have no grip. When you get to a corner, you know it's not going to have any grip. You know it's not going to have very good brakes. But it's still a very quick car. Again, it's another one with almost modern day speed. As I said, it's a little slower than the Auto Union. Still pretty damn quick though. But it doesn't have the brakes, it doesn't have the grip of the Auto Union, and that doesn't have the grip of a lot of modern cars. So you can imagine this it's not it's not a safe car to drive. Very scary trying to get this around a track, especially if it's not just you driving around a track. That's when things get really interesting in a car that's this slidey and just general lack of grip. And at the top of our table, I'm not sure if it's so much of a good thing, for the Ferrari 375. This is an absolutely bonkers car. It's one of the least powerful cars we have on this list, about 375 horsepower, I think. But it is such a difficult car to drive. I did a city car build of this thing. It had a lot more power and racing tyres and stuff, and it was just constant oversteer, constant wheel spin. And the standard car is not much better. It really isn't. Every time you go around a corner, this thing is constantly wanting to slide. The brakes are not very good. It doesn't do a very good job of getting stopped. It is pretty damn quick on the acceleration front. All of these cars, these classic race cars, don't weigh that much. Still struggling on the brakes. Just trying to use any power on this car. I mean, admittedly, Bathurst is quite an extreme circuit for me to be testing this car on, especially coming down the hill there. I mean, that tests modern race cars and modern supercars to have the grip. It just doesn't. It will just slide absolutely everywhere. If it's not sliding, you get an awful lot of understeer. It's quite a weird thing trying to drive this car. If you are very, very, very careful with this vehicle, you will probably still have a lot of oversteer. You could try your very best to keep this in check, and it still won't really like it. I mean, I think it was 160 miles an hour through there, and it just can't hold on to the road at all. I have fought this car a number of times trying to get it around a track. It is the most difficult car I think there is to drive on Forza 5. It really is quite a crazy machine. So there we go. That is it for this video, guys. So thank you very much for watching. Yes, this is my own opinion, etc. Some of you may disagree with this list, but oh well. So yeah, thank you for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.